Hello and welcome to the Story Behind the Stories, your weekly look at the pages of the Neepawa Banner Press. Thank you very much for taking a little bit of your time and spending it with me, Eoin Devereux, News and Sports Director with the Banner Press, and I'm flying solo this week. Casper Werhan, we're giving them a little bit of a break. They've been on the show several times, and we have our new person, Destiny Mackey, just not ready yet for prime time, so I figured what the heck, give them both sort of a respite, as it were, and try and fly this machine solo. So very much looking forward to being able to share some of the stories and some of the things that are going on with you. And we're going to have a lot to talk about. Oh my goodness. This is such a jam-packed paper. 24 pages, one section, and the news in here is so vital, so significant to the community of Neepawa. And we're going to start off with the biggest story everybody's been talking about this week. And that story is, and we're going to go over to camera 2 here on our front page, obviously, Neepawa's new hospital. It's been on the lips of everyone over the last several months, almost an entire year actually. It was announced back in December 2021 that the provincial government would be assisting with the creation and the building of a new health care facility in Neepawa, desperately needed. Our community has been growing for so long that the population has just skyrocketed. So it was a vital necessity for something like this to occur in Neepawa. And to be able to hear that was great. But unfortunately, back in December when they made the announcement, they didn't exactly say where it was going to be placed. And it's a certain requirement. They need about 40 acres. That's a mandate now in terms of construction, that they need 40 acres to be able to build these types of facilities on. There's only a few spots in Neepawa left, though, where 40 acres really works within the town limits. Now, you may remember, if you are a consistent watcher of the Story Behind the Stories, or if you pick up a copy of the Banner Press on a weekly basis, back in I believe it was June, actually, now that I think about it. On the front page of the Banner Press, we had a bit of an exclusive and a bit of something there confirming that it was going to be occurring in the east end of Neepawa. There was a lot of talk, a lot of hype, a lot of work behind the scenes. We couldn't get official confirmations, but we still ran with it anyway, because we had enough confirmations that we felt confident that we could roll with it, and roll with it on our front page, and not face any significant brushback, and more importantly, not be wrong. Because that's what you want to do in this type of media. This is what you want to do. You want to be first, yes, but more importantly, you want to be right. And quite honestly, fortunately for us, on both of those standards, we hit it. We were first, and we were right. And we got that confirmation again this week. It is going to be built on the east end of Neepawa. For those of you that maybe are a little unfamiliar, pretty much right next to RME, that building, that business out there, just on the outskirts of the community, 40 plus acres has been sealed. It's been signed, sealed, and is now delivered. Had an opportunity earlier this week on the Monday to go out on location. The health minister for the province of Manitoba, Audrey Gordon, was there. Representatives from Prairie Mountain Health were on hand as well. Local MLA Eileen Clark, the mayor Blake McCutcheon, and the incoming mayor Brian Headley were allowed to be there. And I say allowed very specifically because we are in election time right now. So none of the councillors or any of those types of individuals were allowed to be on location for that, because it could skew the election. You know, they see a picture of somebody in there, give the positive light, that type of, just between you and me, it's a little bit of bunk, you know, let's be honest. But they're being careful on that. That's why no councillors or any of those types of individuals could be there. But Brian could be there, and Blake could be there, because Blake is stepping down and Brian is acclaimed. If there was another individual running for mayor, Brian wouldn't be able to be there. That's just the reality of the situation. But it's great that they were both able to be there, along with so many other dignitaries for the town of Neepawa, for the riding of Agassiz, and from the province. Very much looking forward to it. Now, you're going to have to pick up a copy of the Banner Press, or if you can't get a physical version of it, check it out on mywestman.ca because there's the artist rendering that you're going to be able to see right on the front page. And I got to say, just that looks impressive. That very much looks impressive. If that's what it ends up being, if that's what it ends up looking like, that is going to be tremendous for the community of Neepawa and the outlying regions. A $127 million healthcare facility is going to do wonders for this region. It is going to turn Neepawa into a health hub. And representatives with the province and with the RHA said as much to me. That's why you got to check out the story. You can find it. It's on page 1 of this week's edition of the Banner Press. Carries over onto page 10. You can see the land where they're planning on doing all that work, all the details that we're able to get. There's still 1 or 2 things they're sort of keeping in the back pocket, as it were, as things develop. But as this story does come to fruition and develops over the next few years, because they expect it to be done by the year 2025, we will follow up with that and we will share those details with you as soon as we get it. All right, let's shift gears over a little bit then. On to page 2, this was a story that Casper Werahan was able to get for us. A symbol of unity and love, the Neepawa United Anglican Ministry. They had a rededication ceremony this past Sunday of the new bell tower. Now, most likely you saw them putting it up a little while ago. A few weeks ago, they were putting up the new bell tower. The tower itself is new, but the bell itself is from the old church, and they had it completely and totally refurbished. And it just, there is a very certain significance to it that they wanted to be able to keep it and to keep it with the new building, even though they have moved. It's only a block they moved, but it's still something brand new for them. So I'm very happy that the parishioners and the church, the United Church, were able to have this celebration. Representatives from Brandon came out for it, for the rededication. This has special meaning. I got to admit, I'm not a spiritual person myself, but for those that do partake, and especially in this particular church, it does have special meaning. So I'm very glad that they were able to celebrate this and to share it with the community of Neepawa. Now, if you want to see that story, Casper's story is, as I said, it's on page 2 of this week's edition of the Banner and Press. So much other stuff. Let's go to the center. Let's skip ahead just a little bit and let's go to the center part of the newspaper because we got a special feature focused entirely on Manitoba AgX that's going to be occurring in Brandon, Manitoba shortly. Now, you can sort of see it there, but there's so much information about what's going on, the judging and all that, and so many different businesses that wanted to support this event. This was a special feature that we put on just to showcase AgX happening at the end of this month. Great that it's returning. A version of it is returning to normal. It seems like way too long since we've had normal, not just in Neepawa, but just everywhere. And these types of events are that feeling of, you know what? We're not through it. We're not through the worst, maybe, but we feel like we're getting back to some semblance of sanity here. We're able to go out to these types of events, significant events for the ag, for the cattle industry. If you've never been, I suggest you go down there and learn a little bit about it. Obviously, Manitoba AgX isn't as glitzy as the Winter Fair. It isn't as showy as Agribition out of Regina, but I still think it's important for people to understand the industry. And if you can, go down and check it out. It is free to attend. You can go see it for yourself over at the Keystone Center. So, and we share a little bit of that information in this week's edition of the Banner and Press. And in fact, on the front page, it's our teaser, the special feature for this week's newspaper. And again, 24 pages. We really did a little bit of work this week, as opposed to other weeks where we're just slacking off. Well, yeah, kind of. I gotta know, I put on frequent flyer miles or maybe frequent driver miles because I was out and about to a whole bunch of different things. One of which is on page 7 of this week's edition, on the Rural Outlook page. I went out to Gladstone and checked out the Candidates Forum for the municipality of Westlake Gladstone. That is such a contentious race right now. Obviously, we've covered in the past the internet online issues they had, in which a large portion, nearly $500,000 of money, was siphoned from their funds by hackers. And there's been also a lot of discussion, a lot of discontent about communication between representation and the general public. They feel like that there's a disconnect there. I'm not saying that there is, I'm not saying that there isn't, I'm just saying that's what they're feeling. That's what they're sensing right now. So there was a huge contingent of voters out at this event. In my estimation, I obviously wasn't able to do a head count, but in my estimation, it was over 400 people that were out at this candidates forum, which was put on by the Gladstone Chamber of Commerce. They organized the event, they put together all the questions, set up all that stuff, because they knew that it was something significant that the people wanted. And this type of attendance just shows it in spades. 400 plus people tuned in, interested to learn about the candidates, to learn about the individuals who will be representing them around the council table. So, and there are so many. There's 14 individuals who are hoping to represent them as a member of council, and 2 individuals who are seeking to be the mayor. Darcy Maloney and Daryl Shipman are the 2 individuals in question. So that's going to be a very interesting race to watch, because there's a lot of voters that are frustrated out there, that are angry, just a little bit peeved off right now. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. So a little closer to home, though, Disney Mackey has a story on page 22 of this week's paper about Neepawa's candidates forum. That one was a touch less contentious. A few fewer individuals, if I remember correctly. I believe it's about 9 individuals running for 6 council seats, and not quite as contentious, not quite as well attended, which was good because it was in the back room of the library. I don't think they could fit 400 plus people in there, but there was still a good number of people that showed up, despite the fact that it was a smaller venue, despite the fact that the road into the library is inaccessible still, but that's neither here nor there. So it's good that for the most part people still wanted to be there and still wanted to take part in the political process. That's good. That's healthy. That's what a community needs. And if you weren't able to be there in person, you were able to see it. You were able to see it on NAC TV. They had it on multiple times throughout the week, very clearly sort of indicating it was a 2-hour sort of slot for the candidates forum, and they've had it on several times throughout the week. And that's the type of thing that, you shouldn't take for granted. NAC TV was able to get out there, was able to get it recorded, was able to hear what the candidates had to say. We were out there, we got the information, but to get all the information in takes up so much space. It's sometimes difficult. So for the TV station to be able to be out there and to do a job like this is something you as a viewer, I hope you take advantage of. Because there's several communities that don't have this. I worked in Portage-la Prairie, Portage, a much bigger community than this, but they didn't have any community access availability whatsoever. So if they had their candidates forum, they wouldn't be able to watch it, unless they were there. And then maybe a week, 2 weeks later, they'd watch it, they'd read about it in their newspaper, or they'd hear a 30-second or 20-second little snippet on their radio station. So it's very great that we were able to do this, and NAC TV was able to do this. And don't forget, you still have time. Check your local listings for NAC TV. They'll most likely could be putting it on again before the election day. I don't have the schedule right in front of me right now, but I'm sure if you check your dial, and most TVs don't even have dials anymore, so but check your listings on your TV and find out when, and tune in and find out a little bit about these individuals that are going to be representing you for the next 4 years. All right, let's move past the political stuff in a sense, and let's talk about Blake McCutcheon. This is still political, but it's more of an opportunity to sort of sit down with the outgoing mayor for the town of Neepawa and just reflect. Blake, he came in when he ran for mayor. His mindset was a 4-year term to sort of help steer the community of Neepawa in the right direction, in what he felt was the right direction. He's finished up his 4-year term. Very appreciative of the time and effort you and the other members of council put in on this, Blake. So I had a chance to sit down with him and talk to him about his tenure as mayor and what it meant to him, some of the challenges he had to face, some of the triumphs he feels he and council were able to achieve, and some of the perhaps regrets that things were not be able to be done, things that maybe he wanted to see progress, but for one reason or another didn't progress. It was great. I set this up as well in a Q&A fashion, so just question, answer. And part of that is I wanted Blake to sort of share the information in his own words completely and totally. And secondly, I got a little lazy. I'll be honest, this was a little bit easier to write and to put on the page. Because if you actually pick up a copy of the Banner Press, you're going to see, just between you and me, just between us, all right? Like 80% of this week is me, Well, not the ads. Diane Warner did a whole crap load of the ads. Pardon my language. But, I really earned my paycheck this week. I'm not going to lie. And I'll probably earn my paycheck next week. But that's a little bit of the story behind the story type thing. That's neither here nor there. You just keep that between us. So anyway, back to Blake and what he's been doing with this. He is very pleased to have been able to serve the community of Neepawa over these 4 years as he has. Does he have regrets about things that didn't get done? Yeah, sure. Quite honestly, who doesn't have regrets over the last 4 years? Especially over the last 2. Neepawa Town Council, Neepawa Administration, and Mayor Blake have had to deal with, hopefully, once in a lifetime circumstances. And they've had to deal with it twice. They've had to deal with the pandemic. Hopefully this is a once-in-a-lifetime situation with the pandemic. And then the massive flooding situation that struck Neepawa and surrounding communities as well in 2020. Neepawa wasn't even the hardest hit of those communities, but we were still hit. And we were hit hard. And they had to deal with that. And they still deal with that. So he talks about those challenges of being a historic council that dealt with historic moments. And he still finds a way to sort of see the positives of what they were able to accomplish, what they were able to do, and what they leave behind for the new mayor and the new council. Now, if you'd like to see that story, I suggest you do give it a few minutes of your time. It's always appreciated when you do that. It's on page 9 of this week's edition of the newspaper. Also in this week's paper, Destiny Mackey has a story, and let me share this with you, some of the details. It's great that this event was able to be put on once again. What's the big idea? Every year in and around this time, we talk about that event. It's a Dragon Den style sort of showcase for entrepreneurs in Neepawa and surrounding areas. This year's again was very well attended, and it was good that it was able to return to sort of in person, being able to see those presentations. They had Proric Repair Service Limited was one of the businesses that was there and presented. MV2 Angels All-In Boutique was one of the ones as well that did a presentation, a Neepawa-based business. The Garlic Guys, gotta love that name, the Garlic Guys. They were a business that did a presentation. And here's one that's interesting, Succeeding Lights Software. Apparently, an individual, local individual, who does building of apps and games. So they pitched their concept for new apps for Android and whatnot. That's interesting, because when you hear about these types of entrepreneur things, you usually think brick and mortar buildings. You usually think of those types of things. But business is innovating. Business is changing. And the way business is handled, even in smaller communities like Neepawa, is changing as well. And this is an example of that. I really do hope that you take a couple minutes, you check that out. Destiny went down there, is still learning the game, learning the process here, and did a commendable job of sort of getting the information together and sharing those details, because we love showcasing these types of things. Even though sometimes media feels like it focuses on the doom and gloom, the bad news, the quote-unquote, if it bleeds, it leads, we don't want to have to do that. We like sharing good news. We like sharing nice features. We enjoy sharing your stories that you want to share with others. And these types of good news stories about a young business, a new business, and new business people getting a leg up, getting an opportunity, that's great. Like, those are the types of things you want to keep focusing on for years to come. And I genuinely and sincerely hope that we're able to. I hope that the event, What's the Big Idea, continues to roll on and becomes a tradition for so many different businesses in and around Neepawa. All right, now, I don't usually talk about things that we don't really write ourselves, but I just want to showcase one page just for the sheer, oh God, I hope I don't get in trouble for this, just for the sheer absurdity of it. We bring in the majority of the ads we see are local ads, but we get some national ones, and we have individuals that work with us to bring in national and provincial ads. And there's this one ad on page 14. And again, I'm not gonna sort of say anything out of sorts, but they had a very special request on page 14 that this one ad, first off, it had to be the only ad on the newspaper page, on that particular page. That's a little unusual, but sometimes special requests come in and we deal with them as best we can. But the next thing about it is their other request was that it be exactly in the center of the page. I have never seen that here on the pages of the Neepawa Banner Press. Nobody has ever asked us for that. Nobody's ever had the gall to ask us for that. But, cash money. And again, that's the strange thing. Because we do use this organization, we don't even get all the cash money. It's a 50-50 split on that. But, if you see that page and you look at it and you think it looks weird, you're not wrong. It is weird. It's weird that we had to do it that way, and I hope it doesn't become something we have to do on a regular basis. Because, again, just between you and me, don't tell anybody else, this is stupid. It's really stupid. All right? But, that's just my opinion. Again, that's my opinion. It is not the opinion of the Neepawa Banner Press in any way, shape, or form. It is not the opinion of Ken or Christine Waddell or any of my co-workers, not the opinion of NACTV, and it might not be your opinion. But, I'm the one in front of the camera making a fool of himself, so I get to jabber on every once in a while. So I just wanted to share that little unusual thing that's in here. When you're the only one sitting in this chair, you got to fill the time as best you can. So I do appreciate you sort of staying tuned in as I went off the rails just a little bit. Now back to our regularly scheduled news. And that takes us to the sports pages. So much sports going on this week. Neepawa Titans had a game against Wayway Sikapo. Tough team, the Wolverines. Very good team this year. And Neepawa was able to come through with a victory at home. Well-earned, well-deserved, probably one of the best games they've played all season. And I think it could be a confidence booster heading into the... we're already 14 or 15 games into the season. it's almost, we're past the quarter mark, and God, it's just flown right by. And hopefully this is going to be something they can build a little bit of momentum on. You can find that on one of the sports pages, as well as a story about our local football team, the NACI Tigers. They had a couple games. They won both their games. First off, defeating the previously unbeaten Moosomin Generals. That was a big win. Generals consistently, year in, year out, are a really good team. They're a good squad. So for them to be able to do that, kudos to them. And then, of course, they beat the Southwest Sabres, a team based out of Souris, earlier this week. Great. I had a chance to talk with Coach Chidi Small about the team and the incremental but noticeable improvements their players have been making throughout the season. It's a relatively young team, not much experience when it comes to football. So Coach Small said he has seen, from game 1 to this was game 6, he has seen incremental improvements each and every week, each and every game. So he wanted to give that shout out to them. And hopefully, if you get a chance to check out the team before the snow flies, go down their field. Give them a little bit of support. I'm sure it would be greatly appreciated on their part. As well, in our sports section, we talked about it last week about so many representatives from the town of Neepawa who are part of the roster for the Yellowhead Chiefs. So did a quick little write-up about how the Chiefs are doing, the U18 girls and boys squads and the U15 boys and girls squads. There's about 13 people from Neepawa proper who are part of those teams. So just focused on some of the wins they had and some of the individual accomplishments those locals had. So, and again, if any parents happen to see or be down there for the games, snap a picture, send it our way. We always appreciate that type of help. Can't be everywhere all the time, so any little bit here and there is always greatly appreciated. I wish there was more time, but there is so much stuff that can go on during the week. That's why you need to pick up a copy of the Banner and Press. There's so many more stories that we just didn't have time to talk about, like Dan Mazur being a part of the Conservative government's new shadow cabinet. That's a big deal. That is a huge deal, and I don't feel like I could give it the proper service it deserves in only 2 minutes or so time. So that's why I hope that you pick up a copy of the paper. As well, High Life Fund Days gifted over $170,000 to charities throughout Manitoba, including some right here in Neepawa. So if you'd like to learn a little bit more about that, I hope that you pick up a copy of the paper. And we had this story submitted in. Thank you very much for submitting this here, about a local Irish dance student who went down to Ohio, the United States, to compete in a regional tournament and did extremely well. Now you can find that story on page 13 of this week's newspaper. And again, all our regular features, Helen Drysdale, Neil, Ken Waddell, Rita, we always appreciate all these submissions and all this information. And we appreciate your time as well on this as well. And any submissions you have, we might not be able to get them as promptly as we can, but we do try. So we hope that you will send stuff our way. And you can do so. You can send it via email to news@neepawabanner.com. If it's sports specific, you can send it to sports@neepawabanner.com. Always appreciate that. Or you can give us a call, 476-3401. Once again, that's 476-3401. We might be a little busy. Obviously, during the start of the week, we get a little hectic there, but we'll try and get the information as best we can. And oh my goodness, next week is going to be so busy. It's the election. That's a lot of stuff going on. And I've already got about 7 or 8 different chases, story chases I'm looking to get. And I'm sure the other ones are as well. So, but you're going to have to tune in next week once again and see the story behind the stories right here on NAC TV. Thank you.